They thought they'd lost the spider until Tyson heard a faint banging sound. Around the corner, the spider was banging its tiny head on a metal door. The door looked like one of those old-fashioned submarine hatches. A big brass plaque hung on the middle with a picture of a hammer on it. They all looked at each other. "Ready to meet the god of forges?" Grover asked. "No," Percy admitted.
"Yay, Hephaestus!"
Tyson said gleefully. He excitingly turned the wheel. As soon as the door opened, the spider scuttled inside, climbed on a table, and powered down. The room was enormous. It looked like a mechanic's garage with some lifts. Under one lift, which was holding a '98 Toyota Corolla, stuck out the lower half of a man. The sounds of banging stopped, and the mechanic pushed himself from underneath the car and stood up.
"Well, well, what do we got here?"
he said in a deep voice. Percy immediately recognized the man from his last visit on Olympus. Just as expected, it was
Hephaestus, god of forges and fire!
He studied Percy and Annabeth.
"Half-bloods, eh?"
he grunted. I believe we met, sir, last winter," Percy told him.
"Have we now?"
They got the feeling he didn't care one way or the other. He just kept staring at them, like he was trying to figure out how their organic bodies worked. Then he looked at Grover.
"Satyr."
Then he looked at Tyson.
"A Cyclops, that's good. So what are you doing traveling with this lot?"
Tyson said, staring in wonder at the god.
"Yes, well said."
The forge god disagreed.
"Well, there better be a good reason you're disturbing me. The suspension on this Corolla is no small matter, you know."
"Sir," Annabeth said hesitantly, "we're looking for Daedalus. You see, we thought—"
"Daedalus!" the god roared. "You dare seek that old scoundrel?"
Yes, sir," Annabeth said. "Please?"
"Oh, you're wasting your time."
He stared back at Tyson.
"I sense you got something to tell me, young Cyclops."
Tyson's smile faded.
"Yes, Lord."
He told the god about meeting Briareus, and how Briareus left them because he was scared. Hephaestus looked surprised.
"There was a time I admired the 100-handed ones, back in the days of the First War. But everyone attempts to change, young Cyclops. Monsters, mortals, even gods change. You cannot trust them. Take my mother Hera. She'll smile at your face, talk about how important family is, but that didn't stop her from throwing me off the side of Olympus all because of my face. The problem with her is, she likes families, but she likes certain kinds of families, perfect ones, you know. Believe me, young Cyclops, all you can trust is the work of your own hands."
It seemed like a pretty lonely way to live, but Percy deep down didn't exactly trust the work of Hephaestus. He still remembered the time in Denver 2 years ago when his mechanical spiders attacked him and Annabeth, and last winter when they fought the giant defective statue, Talus. His defeat ended up costing Bianca's life. The last thing they needed was a fight with another one of Hephaestus's projects. He focused on Percy, narrowing his eyes as if reading his thoughts.
"This one doesn't like me," he mused. "No worries, I'm used to that already. So what do you need, little demigods?"
"We told you," Percy said. "We need to find Daedalus. There's this guy Luke who's working for Kronos. He's trying to find a way to navigate the Labyrinth so he can invade our camp. If we don't get to Daedalus first..."
"And I told you, boy, looking for Daedalus is a waste of time. He won't help you."
"And why not?" The god shrugged.
"Some of us get tossed over mountainsides, some of us, well, the way we learn not to trust people is even more painful. Ask me for gold or a weapon or a golden weapon or a golden dragon or even some super protective costume, these I can grant you easily. But the way to Daedalus, that's an expensive favor."
You know where he is then, Annabeth said.
It is unwise to go looking, girl.
My mother says looking is the nature of wisdom. Hephaestus raised an eyebrow.
Who's your mother again?
Athena?
Ah, Athena, that figures, he said. Such a fine goddess, Athena. Such a shame she pledged to never marry. She would have made the perfect bride. All right, I can tell you what you want to know, but there's a price. I need a favor.
Name it, Annabeth said.
Hephaestus chuckled. You heroes always making rash promises now.
He pressed a button on his workbench and the wall opened up to reveal a TV screen. The screen showed an image of Mount St. Helens. Hephaestus explained that it was the current prison for the monster called Typhon. Originally, his prison used to be under Mount Etna until the gods moved to America. He also explained that it was also one of his old forges, and lately he sensed intruders in the mountain.
I send my automatons over to investigate, he said, but they do not return. Something ancient and evil lurking about down there. I want to know who dares invade my territory, and if they mean to free Typhon.
You want us to find out who it is, Percy said.
They may not sense you 'cause you're not gods. Go and find out what you can, Hephaestus said. Report it back to me, and I'll tell you what you need to know about Daedalus.
All right, Annabeth said. How do we get there? The forge god snapped his fingers and the spider bot sprung to life again.
My creation will show you the way, he said. It's not that far through the labyrinth. And try to stay alive, will you? Humans are much more fragile than automatons.
They were doing okay until eventually Grover stopped dead in his tracks. Grover spotted a tunnel off to the side that had dirt walls enwrapped in thick roots. He stared into the dark tunnel with his mouth wide open. Grover, come on, Annabeth said. We have to keep moving. This is it, Grover said in awe. This is the way. What way? Percy asked. You mean to Pan? Yes, this is the way. I'm sure of it. We'll come back, Annabeth promised, on our way back to Hephaestus. The spider's not going to wait for us. But the tunnel will be gone by then, Grover said. I have to follow it. A tunnel like this won't stay open. We can't, Annabeth said. The forge is. Grover looked at her sadly. I have to, Annabeth. Don't you understand? She looked desperate, like she didn't understand at all. The spider was almost out of sight, but Percy thought about his conversation with Grover last night, and he knew what he had to do. We'll split up, he said. No, Annabeth said. That's way too dangerous. How will we ever find each other again? And Grover can't go alone. Then Tyson put up his hand and said,
I will go with him.
Percy couldn't believe what he was hearing. Tyson, are you sure?
Yes, I'm not like Hephaestus. I trust friends.
Percy, we'll find each other again, Grover said. We still got the empathy link. I just have to do this. I just have to. Percy didn't blame Grover. This was his life's goal. If he didn't find Pan on this journey, the elders would never give him another chance. I hope you're right, he said. I know I am. Percy never heard him sound so confident about anything. Tyson gave Percy a bear hug, a little more gentle than usual. You be careful now, big guy, Percy told him, and take good care of Grover. Then Tyson and Grover ran down the nature tunnel and disappeared into the darkness. This is bad, Percy, Annabeth said. Splitting up is never a good idea. Don't worry, we'll see them again, he said, trying to sound confident. Now come on, the spider's getting away. It wasn't long before the tunnel started getting hot. The air felt as if they were walking through an oven. As they kept going, Percy remembered what Hephaestus had said earlier about Annabeth's mom, about how she was a maiden goddess. I never heard that about Athena before, he said, and if that's true, then how could she have so many kids back at camp? Well, yeah. Well, don't you know about the story of how my mother was born? She sprung from the head of Zeus in full battle armor or something, right? Exactly. She wasn't born in the normal way. She was literally born from thoughts. When Athena falls in love with someone, a mortal man, her children are born the same way. It's purely intellectual, like the way she loved Odysseus in the old stories. It's a meeting of minds. She would tell you herself that that's the purest kind of love. So wait, so she and your dad, did they ever actually... I was a brainchild, literally, Annabeth said. Children of Athena are sprung from the divine thoughts of their mother and the mortal ingenuity of their father. We're supposed to be a gift, a blessing from Athena on the men she favors. Percy's eyes must have been wider than ever. Are you telling me the way you were born, you came out of... Do you have a belly button? Percy, the spider's getting away. Do you really want me to explain the exact details of how it was born? No? That's okay. I thought not. Now come on. As she ran ahead, Percy wasn't sure he could ever look at Annabeth the same way again, but he continued running and decided some things were better left as mysteries. They emerged in a cavern about the size of an airplane hangar. They arrived at the forges of Hephaestus. There was no floor, just catwalks in the shape of a triangle with a square platform in the middle hanging over a pool of bubbling lava. The spider escort climbed up on a table and went back to sleep again. The platform had all sorts of stuff. There was an operating table, a cauldron, a forge, some old computers, and the largest anvil they'd ever seen. It was so tall and wide, it might as well have been as big as a house. A couple of strange shapes stood behind the anvil, but they were too far away to make out details. Without another word, Annabeth put on her cap and turned invisible. Percy didn't dare call after her, but he didn't like the idea of her approaching the forge on her own. If those things out there could sense a god coming, how could a demigod be any better? Looking back at the tunnel, he missed Grover and Tyson already. Finally, he decided he couldn't stay put and tiptoed down the bridge, hoping he could get a better angle to see what was happening. The heat was horrible. Garion's ranch had been a winter wonderland compared to this. In no time, Percy was drenched with sweat. He crept behind a mining cart like the kind they used in mine shafts. Then he heard voices coming from the anvil.
So shiny,
one voice said.
Yes,
said another.
It's just about done.
Percy panicked. He didn't have time to think. There was nowhere to hide. He lifted the tarp and found that it was half full of scrap metal. He was about to squeeze his way under it, but then the cart lurched forward.
Boy, this weighs a ton,
one voice said.
It's celestial bronze,
the other said.
What did you expect?
Percy could only hope they weren't going to dump the metal into a smelting pot. Then again, he decided he didn't want to find out. He packed up his courage, jumped out of hiding, and sliced at the monster closest to him without even looking at it. He didn't get a good look at the monster, but when he turned to look at the second monster, he saw a dog? Or at least part of it was a dog. The rest of it looked kind of fishy. It had flippers for arms and rubbery-looking skin. A sea dog, maybe? Percy kicked it in the face and ran back the way they came.